Good day, ma'am. The part that is assigned to us is the link number 2, which is teaching elementary school students to be effective writers. So, this work is not a research. It is a practice guide. Authors of practice guides combine their expertise with the findings of rigorous research when available to develop a specific recommendation for addressing these challenges. So, yung mga practice guides, it is based on the review of many researches. Pinag-combine nila yung madaming research, yung mga panelists and reviewer. Inalam nila kung ano yun, kung saan nagkulang yung mga research na ito, tas kung ano yung mga challenges na pare-parehong kinaharap ng mga research na yon. So that makaka-come up sila ng recommendation from it to address those challenges. So, the purpose in making this practice guide is the Institute of Education Sciences or IES publishes practice guides in education to bring the best available evidence and expertise to bear on current challenges in education. So, dahil nga pinagsama-sama itong mga research na ni-review ay mas matibay yung evidence na makukuha dito. At mas masasabi natin na mas expert. Kumbaga, mas magiging effective ito sa pag-solve ng challenges in education. Ano nga ba yung challenges na kinaharap dito sa practice guides na ito, sa mga research na pinagsama-sama? So, yung challenge is identifying what constitute good writing. They compare it with math. Kasi 'di ba, with math, meron lang isang answer sa bawat question. Halimbawa, ang teacher nagtanong sa mga estudyante, 1 plus 1. Ang tamang sagot lamang ng mga estudyante is 2. Pero pag ang teacher nagtanong kung ano ba yung what constitute good writing, wala siyang iisang sagot lang. Kasi nga, madaming dahilan kung paano ka magiging good writer. According to National Commission on Writing on 2003, writing today is not a frill for the few but an essential skill for the many. Frill, ibig sabihin, extra feature. So, yung pagsusulat daw, hindi lamang siya pabongga. Isa siyang importanteng skills. Kasi nga, bakit? Because writing is a process through which people communicate thoughts and ideas. Writing is a fundamental part of engaging in professional, social, community, and civic activities. That's why it is important. So, yung scope and limitation of these practice guides, population or sample, elementary students, beneficiaries, of course students, teachers, literacy coaches, educators, principal, district, and curriculum developers. So, let's move on to the recommendation number 1. According to the panelists, they recommended teacher to provide daily time for students to write. Yung naging roadblock dito or hindrance is there is no enough time in school to devote an hour each day to writing instruction. Kasi nga, yung panelists nag-recommend sila na dapat sa isang araw may isang oras na ilalaan sa pagsusulat yung mga bata. So, yung mga sinadjust ng panelists na approach para ma-solve itong hindrance na to is integration. The teachers should integrate writing activities to a variety of areas or subjects so that para mapunan yung kakulangan sa kaalaman sa pagsusulat. Kaya nga 'di ba, sa mga subject natin katulad sa math, science, English, Filipino, lahat ng mga subject natin nagsusulat tayo, 'di ba? Katulad na lamang ng note-taking, lecture, essays, mga ganon, reflection. Kasi nga, parang ini-integrate na lang yon sa subject. Recommendation number 2, teach students to use the writing process for a variety of purposes. Ano ba yung mga purposes na ito? Meron basic na purpose sa pagsusulat. Ito ay yung to inform, to persuade, and to entertain. Dapat malaman ng mga bata kung bakit sila sumusulat. Kasi nga, 'di ba? Sabi nga nila kapag ikaw alam mo kung ano yung purpose ng ginagawa mo, parang mas nakaka-motivate yung gawin na kapag nalaman nila na nagsusulat sila to inform, namo-motivate sila kasi malalaman nila na meron silang mabibigyan ng knowledge, ganon. To entertain naman, meron silang mapapasaya na mababasa, na babasa sa kanilang ginawang sulatin. At to persuade, may makakahikayat sila ng mga tao, di ba? So, Dr. Steve Graham is one of the panel that is one of the lead researchers in SRSD or Self-Regulated Strategy Development. Ito ay isa sa mga approach na binanggit dito sa recommendation number 2. Ano nga ba yung SRSD? Yung SRSD ay students are taught different strategies and techniques using a gradual release of responsibility. Meron itong 6 na stages. Stage number 1, develop background knowledge or yung prior knowledge ng mga bata. Stage number 2, discuss it. I-discuss ng mga teacher kung ano yung strategies na gagamitin nila. Stage number 3, ano nga ba yung mga strategy na yon na pwede nilang gamitin? Pwede silang gumamit ng goal setting, reflection, task management, task analysis, self-evaluation, and many more. Then, stage number 3, model it. Ipapakita ng teacher kung paano ba ito gawin, yung strategy na yon. Stage number 4, memorize it. So, dito mag-engage na yung mga bata sa mga activities so that ma-memorize nila yung strategies na yon. Stage number 5, support it. Kasi nga 'di ba maraming pagpipilian ng strategy. So, pipili doon yung mga bata kung ano yung strategies na gagamitin nila. Tapos, dapat kaya nilang isupport yun kung kapag tinanong ng teacher, bakit ito yung ginamit mo? Ganyan. Stage number 6, independent performance. So, dito, sila na yung gagawa na sila ng isang sulatin gamit yung strategies na yon na walang tulong ng teacher. Then, let's move on to the writing process. Under pa rin to ng recommendation number 2. Under writing process is planning. Planning is developing goals, generating ideas, gathering information, and organizing ideas. Drafting. Drafting is creating preliminary version of a text, select words, and construct sentences. Next is sharing. Obtain feedback and suggestion from their colleagues or classmates and teachers. Then, evaluating. Titignan nila dito kung na-achieve ba nila yung goals nila sa pagsusulat. Revising and editing, adding or removing something from the written work. Then, publishing, ayun, yung alam naman natin na yan. Then, ito yung mga strategies in writing process. In planning, PO. What is PO? Pick ideas, organize their notes, write and say more. Ayun yung PO. Then, next is ordering ideas or outlining. Brainstorming, review, decider, create outline. Then, strategy in drafting, imitation. May gagayahin silang halimbawa yung teacher nagsulat ng sentence sa board, gagayahin nila yon. Then next is sentence generation. Magbibigay yung teacher ng isang word tapos mag-generate sila ng sentence from that word. Next is strategies in sharing. First is per sharing. Yung kapartner nila, babasahin nila doon yung mga sinulat nila sa kanilang mga kapartner. Then, author's chair. Dito naman, ang teacher naman ang babasa ng mga sinulat nila. Uupo ang teacher sa isang upuan na nasa harapan, tapos makikinig yung bata. Then, next, strategies in evaluating. First, self-evaluating. Next is self-monitoring. Iyon, i-evaluate lang nila kung nasunod ba nila yung mga dapat nilang sundin na sa strategies in writing na yon, kung na-achieve ba nila yung goals nila. Next, strategy in revising or editing. First is per revising. Ito yung yung wari, 'di ba sa may partner, sasabihin nila yung sinulat nila sa kapartner nila. Tapos syempre yung kapartner niya may may mapapansin na mali dun sa sasabihin niya ngayon. Kaya yun, nagkakaroon ng per revising. Pwede din to sa group revising. Ito naman yung nasa isang grupo sila, tapos ayun, mag-share din sila ng mga ideas nila. Kung ano yung dapat idagdag, baguhin, ganun sa sinulat ng bawat isa. Then, next is caps. Meaning ng caps, capitalize the first word. C, yung O, overall appearance. Yung P, punctuation. And yung S is spelling.
Recommendation 3. Teach students to become fluent with handwriting, spelling, sentence construction, typing, and word processing. Handwriting, spelling, and sentence construction are all basic writing skills at magkakaroon ng negative impact sa quality ng pagsulat ng mga bata kung hindi ito mamaster. Aside from that, magkakaroon din ng negative impact sa part naman ng mga babasa dahil pwede silang magkaroon ng kalituhan kahit sabihin pang simple errors lang naman ang nagawa ng bata. Kaya nga sa simula pa lamang, tinuturuan na ang bata kung paano humawak ng pensil at kung paano sila sumulat ng maayos at tama. Ito ay nagaganap, 'di ba, kapag kindergarten. Sumunod naman, pagdating sa mga sumunod na baitang, the teacher teach how to spell the word correctly, lalo na yung mga words that di commonly use. Tinuturuan din ng mga students na gumamit ng correct punctuation marks para mas maging matibay ang gagawin nilang sentences. At isa pa, the teacher teach the students to type fluently and to use a word processor to compose. Ito ay sa mga schools na more on technology na ang ginagamit. At dito pumapasok ang 3 potential roadblocks o yung mga problema na maaaring kaharapin ng mga students, at syempre, meron din namang mga suggested approach na mag-serve as a solution sa problema. Roadblock 3.1. Students struggle to develop handwriting and spelling skills, making writing a frustrating experience. Syempre, hindi rin naman lahat ng learners ay master na ang paggamit ng technologies. May mga students pa rin na hirap. At may mga students din na hindi kagalingan sa spelling. So, ang suggested approach po ay the teacher will need to provide these students with extra instructions in typing and using the word processor and spell checker. Bakit kailangan ni teacher na mag-provide ng extra instruction in typing sa paggamit ng word processor and spell checker? Kasi po may mga instances na nagkakaroon rin ng errors dun sa spell checkers na ginagamit. At minsan, may mga bagay na halimbawa, itatype mo yung salitang said, tapos ang na-type mo ay salitang sad. So, since may word na said at may word na sad, nako-consider ito ng spell checker na tama. So, kailangan ni teacher na ipaunawa sa mga students na mahalagang maging extra careful sa pagtatype at palaging gawin ang proofreading o yung pagre-review ng final draft. Next is roadblock 3.2. Students do not consistently transfer words they have learned successfully in their spelling lesson to their written compositions. Kahit gaano pa kadami ang spelling exercise na ipagawa natin sa mga students, mayroon pa rin talagang hirap at sadyang makakalimutin. So, yung suggested approach po, teach proofreading as part of the editing process. Kagaya kanina, kailangang i-review yung final draft. Aside from that, kailangan maging mapamaraan si teacher kung paano niya masusolusyonan ang ganitong mga problema. For example, developing a bulletin board on which students post creative examples of spelling words used correctly in context. At dapat hindi tamad si teacher na i-check ang gawa ni students upang siya mismo ma-identify niya kung ano yung mga repeated errors na nakakahadlang para ang bata ay hindi maging effective writers. Roadblock 3.3, the school's writing or English language arts curriculum includes only isolated grammars instructions using worksheets or copying tasks to teach sentence writing skills. Yung isolated grammar instruction, ito ay ang traditional way of teaching grammar. So, yung suggested approach para dito, one approach is to follow the grammar curriculum scope and sequence but modify the methods of teaching. Bakit kailangang i-modify ang methods of teaching? Ito ay para ma-meet yung needs ng mga students when it comes to writing. Na kung kinakailangan ay gagamit si teacher ng iba't ibang strategies just to make sure na mapapalabas ang potential ng mga bata sa pagsulat. Dapat din na turuan ng mga bata na matutong mag-edit at mag-revise ng kanilang sariling gawa. Recommendation 4. Create and engage community of writers. Napakahalaga nito para maging effective writers ang mga bata. Napakalaki rin ng gampanin ni teacher. Kailangan niya lumikha ng isang supportive environment kung saan ito ay kinakapalooban din ng mga may interes sa pagsulat. Siyempre naman, di ba? Hindi lang din basta instructor si teacher. Kailangan niya ring maging mistulang participant para maipakita niya ang kahalagahan ng pagsulat. Kumbaga, si teacher ay magiging isang good example sa mga students niya. Ano ba yung mga dapat gawin ni teacher? Una, makipag-participate bilang isa siya sa kasapi ng community of writers na kung saan siya ay nakikibahagi rin sa mga mag-aaral. Sumunod, hayaang magkaroon ang mga learners ng kalayaan sa pagsulat. At maging encourager kasi hindi naman sa lahat ng oras ganado yung mga bata na sumulat. Dumadating din sa point na nagkakaroon sila ng katamaran. Ano pa, bigyan ng opportunity yung mga bata na magbahagi ng kanilang komento at syempre makatanggap din ng comments. At yung mga comments na ito ay dapat mga appropriate verbal feedback. At yung last naman is publish students' writing and extend the community beyond the classroom. How? I-display natin yung mga gawa ng students. Ang halimbawa ay yung wall of fame, 'di ba? At pag nakita ng ibang bata na pinopost pala yung gawa ng mga students, syempre may encourage din sila na makapag-join. Potential roadblock. Roadblock 4.1. Teachers may be uncomfortable with their own writing and therefore hesitant to share and discuss the writing process with their students. Yung suggested approach, establishing a supportive environment in which every member of the community has room to grow and it is acceptable to take risks and make mistakes. Diba nga, si teacher ay part ng community of writers. So, dapat maintindihan ni teacher at ng mga students niya na the writing requires effort dahil hindi naman ito basta-basta. May mga proseso kang kailangang pagdaanan at may mga bagay kang dapat matutunan. Kaya nga meron tayong room for improvement. Ibig sabihin, making mistakes, demonstrating how to recognize those mistakes, and then correcting mistakes to make the writing more compelling can be a powerful model and learning experience para sa lahat. Na normal lang na magkamali, basta ang mahalaga, maitatama to sa huli. Roadblock 4.2. If students are allowed to choose their own topics for writing, teachers may not be able to focus on the content standards adequately. Yung suggested approach naman, teacher can expose students to the genres of writing required in the content standards and still allow students an element of choice. Kailangan na Palawakin ni teacher yung kaalaman ng mga bata na kung saan hindi lang music ang may genre. Na dapat i-introduce ni teacher sa mga bata na may mga genre rin sa pagsulat para hindi sila laging nakakulong doon sa kung ano lamang yung alam nilang mga tema, na mga topic, 'di ba? Last is roadblock 4.3. Providing feedback on all students' writing is overwhelming and time-consuming. Yung suggested approach, teachers should share the responsibility of providing feedback with students through student self-evaluation and peer evaluation. Dapat matutunan ng mga bata kung paano i-evaluate yung sarili nilang gawa as well as i-evaluate yung gawa ng kanilang mga magiging kapareha. Pag na-evaluate si teacher, dapat magbigay siya ng feedback na nakapokus doon sa mga specific elements. At itong mga specific elements na ito, dapat dinidiscuss niya in advance. So, sa ganitong paraan, mauunawaan ng mga bata kung paano nila i-improve yung kanilang pagsulat at kung ano ba yung dapat na pagtuunan nila ng pansin.
Let us move on to the second thesis, entitled Effective Practices for Developing Academic Language and Writing Skills in English Language Learners in the Elementary School Setting. Let us start with the dependent and independent variable of this research. So the dependent variable is the student or the English language learners. The independent variables is the effective strategies or effective practices, since the English language learners are affected and influenced by the different strategies in their writing skills and their language acquisition. The researcher presents the Project GLAD as a program that helps the teachers in teaching their students to learn academic content while learning to understand, speak, read, and write English. It is true that there are diverse learners. We have different kinds of learners. For example, may mga students na nagkakaroon ng problema sa kanilang mga language acquisition, especially in their second and third language. So, magkakaiba ang mga learners. Hindi lahat ng learners is good in speaking, good in writing, and good in listening. Also, there are types of students na distracted, and there are a lot of students who have learning difficulties. So, Project GLAD, or the Guided Language Acquisition Development, it is a model of professional development in the area of language acquisition and literacy. So, this is the strategies that are created for promoting English language acquisition, academic achievement, and cross-cultural skills. Dahil nga mayroong mga diverse learners, we have to use different strategies in our learners. So, Project GLAD helps to improve the speaking, writing, and listening skills of the students through integrating the academic instruction to the curriculum. Kagaya nga sinabi kanina, the GLAD is teaching content and skills together rather than teaching content and skills in an isolation from one another. So, kasabay ng pagtuturo ng different instruction and content of the subject, you are integrating the skills and teaching the skills together as one rather than teaching the content separately and teaching the skills separately. The purpose of the study is to identify the effective practices for teaching English language arts to elementary school who are ELLs or the English language learners and is struggling to build literacy skills. Since the researcher believes that ELLs are having a hard time in the academic instructions while improving their speaking, reading, and writing skills. They also believe that ELLs will learn best when given clear, explicit, and differentiated instruction as well as hands-on learning techniques paired with visual and auditory means. Because mayroon tayong mga different kind of learners kung saan naipapakita lang nila yung skills nila in a specific activities. For example, there are learners who are good and hands-on activities, visual activities, and auditory activities. So using the project LAD or implementing the project LAD strategies into the curriculum will be beneficial for the ELLs. And also, they believe that teachers should learn how to effectively teach ELLs. And the challenge of this research is they believe that there are gaps in the research in regards to teaching who are face multiple challenges. For example, students who are both ELLs and have learning disabilities. That is why there should be a teaching strategies for teaching students with multiple learning needs. The common challenges here are they are more focused in the academic instructions than improving their writing, reading, and speaking skills or vice versa. That's why the researchers suggest that there should be an specific strategies for learners who have different learning difficulties. Scope. The researcher limits the study for the elementary students as the population and the beneficiaries are students, learners, teachers, school educators, principals, district and curriculum developers.
The key theories behind this thesis, entitled Effective Practice for Developing Academic Language and Writing Skills in English Language Learners in Elementary School Settings, are Gay's Culturally Responsive Teaching Gay of 2010, Chomsky Theory on Language Development of 2012, and other cognitive learning theories. The other theory of this thesis is about the cognitive development theory or cognitive learning theories demonstrate moving beyond language input alone and explain human behavior and understanding through processes. Furthermore, the theory discusses learning that is concerned with the acquisitions of problem-solving abilities and information about the environment. So, cognitive development occurs through the interactions of innate capacities and environmental events, and children pass through a series of stages. So one of these person that have this cognitive development theories is Jean Piaget. The theory of cognitive development suggests that intelligence changes as children grow. A children's cognitive development is not just about to acquiring knowledge. The children has to develop or construct a mental model of the words. So, dito sa theory na to, ay pinapapakita na ang mga bata o ang ating mga students na bata ay nadidevelop ang kanilang cognitive learning through communicating or talking to your child or talking to your students para magamit nila yung iba't ibang words na meron sa kanilang isipan o sa mga naririnig nila para makakonstruct sila ng sentence, yung maigsing sentence man lang para ma-develop yung cognitive knowledge nila. And explore gives your students explore with the things in the environment. Also, in singing and reading, ma-develop din yung cognitive ng mga students or ng children. Napasok sa gustong ipakita ng thesis na ito na development through na ma-develop ang language acquisition ng mga bata. Geneva Gay makes a convincing case for using culturally responsive teaching to improve the school performance of underachieving students of color. She combines insight from multicultural education theory, research, and classroom practices to demonstrate the African, Asian, Latino, and Native American student will perform better on multiple measures of achievement when teaching and filtered through their own cultural experiences of references. Sa Turing ito ni Gay 2010, in-explain niya importance of developing knowledge base about cultural diversity, ethics, cultural diversity content, and curriculum, demonstrating caring and building learning communities, communicating with ethical diversity student, responding to ethical diversity in the delivery of instructions. The key components of cultural responsive teaching discussed include teacher caring, teacher attitudes and expectations, formal and informal multicultural curriculum, culturally informed classroom diverse, and learning strategies. Next theory is Chomsky theory of language development. In this thesis, it states that Chomsky argued that children will never acquire the tools needed for processing an infinite number of sentences if the language acquisitions mechanism was depends on language input only. Chomsky stated that the mechanism of language acquisition is derived from the innate processes. Innate is something which is already there in mind since birth. Ang theory ni Chomsky ay isa sa ginamit at theory dito sa thesis na ito. Ang theory na patungkol sa linguistic o paano na-develop ng mga bata ang kanilang linguistic at kung paano sila nagkaroon ng knowledge about dito. Ngunit, nagkaroon ng experiment yung mga professions kung totoo nga ba yung theory ni Chomsky. Ginawa nila ito sa isang bata. Yun nga yung sinabi ni Ma'am na example at ni Yesa sa kanyang report. Hindi pumasok sa theory ang resulta ng pag-experiment nila sa bata. Kaya ang theory ni Chomsky ay hindi nagkaroon ng magandang resulta sa pagde-develop ng linguistic ng bata. And these are the literatures that used in this thesis. Goldberg 2013, Synthesizing Research on English Language Learner. Halliday and Moses of 2013 also discuss how to use the Common Core standards to meet the needs of diverse learners. The author's point of this is the importance of categorizing ELLs in the one homogeneous group, but rather consider the population ranges, age, interest, culture, backgrounds, linguistic background, SES, literacy, experience outside of the school. Mamaya, itatakal natin kung ano yung ELLS at GLAD. Also, the study of Theosen Theo, Rico Grande, and Hanita of 2014 focuses on the impact of Project GLAD. Ito yung sinabi kong GLAD na mamaya natin i-discuss. Especially, the main focus was on the impact of GLAD on student literacy and science learning. The studies was cluster randomized trial of sheltered instructions. Research has showed a need for more programs that help students access academic content while simultaneously learning to better understand English, including listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Also, the study of Stahl and Fairbanks of 1989. They examine the effects of comprehensive vocabulary instruction on students' metacognitive world learning skills and reading comprehension. The students in the study were 5th grade children in low-performing titled school in California. The study used intervention strategies that focuses on multifaceted metacognitive vocabulary. Especially, the study design purpose was to facilitate encoding words, classifying strategies, and implementing strategies to maximize world learning proximity. The focus of the research was to help children monitor comprehensions of words and the internalize and implement word learning strategies to increase comprehensions of natural text. De Servo Astrom, Baker, and Rivera, 2014, focus on what is known about academic English AE within the context of K-12 education. The author discussed how AE is conceptualized in the education research literature, how those conceptualizations are realized in instructional practices, and the application of those conceptualizations for teacher education and professionalism development. Through this review, their hope is to shed light on practices that allow ELLS and other students the opportunity to learn academic languages. They collect and analyze literature from the U.S. Department of Education, research published in journals, books, handbooks, policy documents, and other such scholarly works at the authors use both quantitative and qualitative studies. Expert opinions. This conclusion explained that instruction influenced by the view of academic vocabulary improving student i.e. AE is a concern of education of not only ELLS but of educators of all subjects. So dito sa study na to, nakapakita nila yung difference in AE across content. At ang teachers daw at student pwedeng makasupport sa isa't isa and para ma-clear yung kanilang thinking, nila at magkaroon sila ng magandang connection within the written and oral text. So another study is by Carlo, Austin, McLaughlin, Snow, Dressler, Lipman, Lively, and White 2004. Dito naman, they have same respondents for grade 5. It is focused on an interventions for what designed to enhance 5 graders' academic vocabulary. In this intervention, academic vocabulary was taught in conjunction with strategies for using information from context, morphology, knowledge about multiple meanings, and for cognates to infer words meaning. And then dito sa research nito, pinakita na nagkaroon sila ng good result sa showed greater growth than the comparison group on knowledge of the words through on depth of vocabulary knowledge, on understanding multiple meaning and reading comprehension. Pero sa result na yun, hindi lahat yun positive, may negative din. Na nakaka-apekto rin dun sa mga English speakers. So, all in all, theory and literacy shows that several strategies to use when teaching ELLs is clear that culturally respective teaching can have a positive effect on students through using cultural characteristic, experiences, and perspective of ethically diverse students in the classroom. Teacher can create a safe, comfortable, and inclusive environment. Teachers can develop a knowledge base about cultural diversity, implement ethics and cultural diversity content in the curriculum, and ultimately demonstrate caring and building learning communities. Also, it shows that there have gaps in the research in regarding to what specific writing skill and strategies are most adventurous for showing an improvement in writing abilities and outcomes. Next is for significant informations about ELLS and other literature that connected with it. And also the studies of Peterson and Salas 2004, Kahan, Maho, and Ashta 2013, Cruz and Thorsten 2019 na patungkol sa ELLS. Ano nga ba ELLS? ELLS means English Language Learners, the students who are learning English in addition to their native language. They may or may not be literate in their native language, and they have varying levels of proficiency in regards to the English language.
Ang ELLS naman ay para sa mga batang gustong ma-develop ang kanilang second language. Ito ay ang English. Gusto nila ma-develop ang English para makasabay sa native language. ELS din ipinapakita dito sa thesis na ito ang iba't ibang strategies na po pwedeng gamitin and resources para ma-develop natin ang second language. Ngunit hindi pa rin maganda ang kinalabasan nito ang result nito. Kaya ginamitan nila yung GAD, G-A-D, yung GAD. In this thesis, literary reports explain the difficulties ELLS face when trying to learn new content while still trying to meet language proficiency in English. So, maraming ang problema na hinaharap sa ELLS. So, ginamit nila yung using GAY 2010 Culture Response Teaching During Construction Time showed all positive outcomes within this study. So, ginamit nga nila yung GAY para magkaroon ng positive outcomes sa study nila.
Result: the findings of the study shows a positive outcome in regards to explicit instruction in academic vocabulary related to the content in addition to teaching specific writing skills and strategies. Although most students show some growth in their writing following explicit instruction in academic vocabulary and focusing on teaching specific writing skills and strategies. Writing reflectively helps us grow. Writing is an essential but complex skill that students must master if they are to take full advantage of educational, occupational, and civic responsibilities. Conclusion: studies have shown that students achieve significantly better in programs that teach language through cognitive complex academic content. Additionally, ESL pull-out in the early grade is the least successful program model for students' long-term academic achievement. The cognitive benefit of learning a language have a direct impact on a child's academic achievement. Compared to those without an additional language, bilingual children have improved reading skills and math skills.